This is Voices, a space where we get to bravely share our truth, stories, experiences, and art. A ton of dope people who will motivate you, make you cry, make you laugh, bring some hope into your life, but just maybe they'll share something interesting enough to help you find your voice. Welcome to Voices. Hey guys, welcome to Voices. I'm Lexi Rosado. I go by she, her pronouns, and I am here with Ezra.
Hi, I use they, them pronouns.
Hey Ezra. Super glad that you're here. Ezra, someone who in the Lansing community not only is an awesome artist, an awesome person, and you can see Ezra at many coffee shops. So tell us a little bit about you.
Well, like you said, I can be seen in a lot of coffee shops, and usually during not quarantine time, that's like my first thing every day. And I do actually think that that has a lot to do with to me that's like part of my creative process, because it's a place where when we met, that's like where I meet people, but also you don't always meet people, because I can put my headphones in, I can be in my zone, you know, and I'm just usually drawing or writing, which will then come out in my art or my music. And usually a lot of it will also become like a visual thing for me, so that's why the drawing helps a lot. But I'm an artist, I'm non-binary, I say I'm like multimedia, audio-visual.
Multimedia, audiovisual, true, very true. For those who don't know, can you explain what non-binary means?
It means basically, depending on the person, it can mean that you identify with both the binary genders, male and female, or that you don't identify with those. And for me, I identify as androgynous, which means feminine, masculine. And so I don't identify with one gender. I identify also, I say I'm null gender. There's no gender here. So I just think it's more like I'm also trans, so I'm on testosterone. So I was born female, transitioned to male. So this is not what non-binary is. There's so many different parts of identity, you know, but since I'm trans, it kind of makes it confusing for people sometimes, because I've medically transitioned, but then I'm like, well, I'm non-binary. So then they're kind of expecting me to have fully changed my identity, which really I have, but they view it kind of like, some people view it kind of like I've only gone halfway. But really, this is who I am. I'm not ever going to identify myself as a man or as male. I mean, even those words, I don't care if other people refer to me with things like that, but internally for me, I know that I don't exist within the realm of gender binary, you know?
So walk us through childhood, because you have a twin, and what I find interesting, so walk us through childhood, and kind of when is the age that you knew that sticking to a certain binary gender wasn't working for you?
I knew that I had gender identity issues my whole life, because I would have a new name every day, and I would always be trying to mimic different characters that I liked or the boys in my neighborhood. And so I really wanted to not be viewed as a girl, so I didn't want to be viewed doing things feminine, even if I liked them. But it took me until I was 17 to find out what non-binary is. And a week after I found out what it was, I came out that way. Because someone else asked me my pronouns, and I was like she, her, and then I was like, what about you? Because I was just felt rude kind of if I didn't ask to, you know? They were like, I go by they, them pronouns, and I identify as non-binary, and I was like, what is that?
What's that? You were 17?
Yeah.
Okay, so where were you?
I was in my bedroom in the first house I ever lived in on the border of East Lansing and Hazlitt, and I was just messaging one of my classmates on Facebook, and they had come out to me that way, and I was kind of I think I looked it up on Google or something, and I was like, that's kind of weird. I don't know what this whole deal is. And then a week later, I was looking into it more on Tumblr, and I was like, oh, this is it. This is the feeling that I've been looking for a word for, which to me was when I found out that androgynous could be used as a identity, because I was already very interested in doing androgynous modeling, which is when you do female and male modeling. Yeah, Erica Linder or Richie Phoenix is like their alias for modeling sometimes. They're my favorite androgynous model, so I was trying kind of to hop on that boat. I just thought it was really cool to see a girl doing like the Urban Outfitters males line and stuff, and like Calvin Klein men's and stuff, like, and looking so hot in mask. Like, I was like, that's rad. But then when I saw that, I was like, I already knew the word, so it was familiar, which is nice. But also, it didn't mean man or woman, it meant feminine or masculine, which everybody is feminine and masculine. And that's what I like. It seems very human.
The last time we talked about how in childhood that even when you and your twin would go to bed at night, you would say things like you wanted to be called by a different name.
Yeah.
You didn't want a feminine name. You didn't want a girl name. You wanted...
Yeah, we never referred to each other as our birth names. We always referred to each other as babe. And in my family, like, my parents call like all of the kids babe, you know, and they call each other babe. But for me and Marshall, it was because everyone was calling us baby when we were babies. So we started calling each other baby. And then as we got older, we would just shorten it to babe. But we never called each other by our original names. And we would make up names, and we'd pretend like we'd tell our parents, like, pretend I'm your son and pretend this is my name. And they would be like, okay, yeah, whatever, you know. And then at nighttime, we'd have these secret conversations in bed together. And we would say like, okay, I won't tell anyone, but if tomorrow you could wake up and be a boy, would you? And the other one would say yes. And we would ask because we would feel that way. And we would pray to God, like, please let me wake up a boy tomorrow. Just for some reason, like as a child, I felt that that was so significant to my life. Yeah. And it was, in a gendered world, it is. You know? You've shared before that you felt like in your childhood, you felt like your voice didn't matter. How has that impacted you? I think it has a lot of cons, but I think it also has pros, because I think it helps. It at the same time, at certain times in my life, it really helps me hear other people. Ooh, that's good. And like, it makes me more compassionate. Yeah, like I really want to hear them, and it's kind of like you project what you want people to be towards you. But there's also like there was always like a part of me that was like, also, it's not that like I want someone to do this for me, but I don't want them to think that I wouldn't for them or something, you know? Like I want to be there for people, and so I want them to know that they're heard. And so I think it's affected me mostly in wanting other people to feel heard by someone. To feel heard, yes. How can people do a better job of hearing others that are different than them? Don't think about your response until you've listened to what they're saying. And so I will ask people to repeat things a lot, because I'll be caught up in the sentence before or something, but I have comprehension problems. And so I think that might be part of the reason, because I kind of have to slow it down because I just won't know what's going on if I don't stop and try to listen. But it also helps you feel confident in your response. And so then, I don't know, for me, if I'm not doing that, I feel like I can't have a conversation that's not uncomfortable, or me being afraid of the fact that I might be making it uncomfortable, you know? Yeah. And so I think really the most important part with listening is practice, and doing it while you're alone and doing it every day. You have to put it into practice every day in order to like just do it naturally. For those that don't understand the non-binary route, so coming from an identity that you were born with that you didn't feel like you connected with, can you help explain that? Yeah, so I think that a big part of non-binary and within the community too of just queer people is that, like, gender and sexuality are, first of all, obviously completely different. Well, not obviously, but they are. They're completely different things. And
let's explain it, because there's some people that are watching that may not understand that.
Because your gender identity is your identity, and how you personally identify, and your sexuality is who, like, you'd be sexually attracted to. And so both of those things, though, are completely fluid. So they could, like, it can change, like, day to day. Like, there's some people that identify as gender fluid. And so, for example, they could wake up one day and be like, oh, I'm totally a boy today, and then the next day be a girl, and then the next day be neither, and then the next day be a girl, and then the next day be a boy, or whatever. But that's just one person. The beauty about non-binary is that it's infinite. Non-binary is an umbrella term for an infinite amount of identities, that none of us have to be specifically one gender. Because for me, like, transitioning, so for me, I feel, and I've always felt, that a masculine presentation of myself would be more fitting. And now I never could have known that without going on testosterone, which is why I decided that I would go on it for at least 12 months. And I decided to continue on it. And so that's, like, a decision, like, I just took a risk. I was like, maybe, you know, like, this might be right, let's try, you know, and dive in. And, like, that's really what you have to do to dive into yourself. And I feel like for me specifically, and a lot of non-binary people I've talked to, I think that gender really, like, traumatized me as a child. The fact that we have gender and that we raise boys and girls so different made me feel very unimportant, and made me feel that one gets more love than the other, one gets to do all the fun things that I want to do, and the other one only gets a few of the fun things I want to do. You know, it's like the boys and girls toys at McDonald's. Everything in our society is gendered. And to say, I don't want to be a part of this anymore and I'm breaking this pattern, is to be non-binary.
So, Ezra, what advice would you give to people who are watching, who have biases, who just find it hard to hear voices of other people that are different than them?
I think that, like, well, I just kind of think that that's funny to have a bias on what someone else is saying. I think that it's important to really listen to what they have to say from their perspective, and if you can't even imagine their perspective, then your opinion kind of like, you shouldn't even have one if you don't understand. But I think that it's just important to be open to understanding what other people are living with or going through, or just who they are. And I think, like, literally, if someone says, okay, like if I said today, my name is Zach now, and I go by she, her pronouns, then, like, I hope that everyone just respects that, because I'm gonna respect, like, tomorrow if you come in and you're like, just Lex now, never Lexi again. I'm gonna be like, okay, Lex, you know, like, and I'm gonna be like, okay, like, but I'm gonna respect that. I think just, like, respect people, especially for their identity and things that they can't change, like things that, like, that don't have anything to do with them being a good or a bad person. Like, you know, I mean, fuck that too, like being a good or a bad person, but, like, it's just, I don't know, I think that that's important, is to, like, not judge a book by its cover, pretty much. But thanks for being here. Thanks for having me. I love you. I know.
This episode of Voices has been brought to you by Blue Owl Coffee and Vision Success Marketing and Consulting.